Hello, welcome back to part 2 of our Hono and HTMX tutorial. We're going to be working through some very common patterns when it comes to building websites with HTMX. And yesterday we looked at a very simple Hello World app with some lazy loading, and we got that working pretty quickly. So today we're going to move on a step further. We're going to introduce a database and we're going to display some of that data in the UI. Let's see how quickly we can do that. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get rid of this loading tag here, and I'm going to replace it with a placeholder for a list. We're going to get rid of this stuff here, and we're just going to keep our page as is. But here, what we're going to do is we're going to have a list that we can write to. So let's have a look at this. We'll have a heading. And we're going to call it users because it's going to be a list of our users in the system. And you can imagine that this is the kind of thing that's going to be useful when you're creating a user management system or something like that. I'm going to put some styling on here, and let's make that 300, and I'll put a margin at the bottom as well, so we've got a bit of space. There we go, users. Actually, I'm going to take this height centering out altogether, and I'm going to put some padding at the top so that we're looking much more like a user page. Right, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to add a placeholder. Now, yesterday we had a loading tag that showed the text loading. What I want to do today is add some skeletons, which are those pulsating placeholders for the content that we're gonna place in. So let's add one here, and we're using Tailwind, remember, so we get a lot of these things out of the just straight out of the box with Tailwind, which is really helpful. Animate pulse allows us to pulsate the component that we've placed it on. So I'm setting a height, I'm going to set a width about that, and then I'm going to set a background a bit lighter than the background. I'm going to round the edges, I think. Okay, and we're going to see, let's wrap that all in another div so that we can have a list of them. Got one too many divs here. Okay, so here I'm going to make it a flex column so they go down vertically, and then we're going to have a gap of 2, and this should help us to, this will be useful when we replace it all with actual data. Now you can see that's pulsating there. That maybe I'll make 3 of them. That's great. So we've got a placeholder now, and what we're going to do is we're going to place that HTMX post on here instead of like we had it above before, because we're just going to get it to replace the contents of this list. And the HX trigger is the load again. Okay, so when we hit refresh, currently it replaces it with Hello World, which is not what we want to do, but it's functionally doing the right thing. So what I'm going to do here, get rid of the timeout, and I'm going to put a placeholder in for some users, and let's just give it 2 entries. We're going to have Alice Boot, and she is going to have an email of alice@boot.com, and again Bob Boot. That's great, yeah, brilliant. Bob at boot.com, and Charlie Boot, yeah. Copilot's really helping me out here today. Great. So we've got 3 users there. What we're going to do is we're going to iterate over these users in the JSX here. So we're going to put this placeholder in here because we can't just render out a list of items. We're going to have to wrap them in something. And what I want to do is I'm just going to have a div. Now, in a second, I'm going to extract this out into a separate component, so we're not putting all the HTML inline here. And this is something that I commonly do. I'll have a components folder in here, and then we'll put, let's go ahead and do that now. So I'm going to create a user, TSX, and that user is going to have, let's have a user type that we want to use. I need to create this, and before I'm getting ahead of myself here, let's try and create a model. And in the model, we'll have a database. And I can declare my user type on here. And that will have an ID, which is a number, a name, and an email. Excellent. And so let me just add something into the tsconfig. I'm going to add a base URL. And it's something I quite like to do on my projects. I like to add the alias paths in so that I can replace paths with an @ sign. So if I want to import my user, I can go @model DB. I'm hoping that's working. Might not be working. Have I done it right? Have I done that right? I've added the alias @star, which is a kind of selector, and I need to set a path of source. I think I need to add maybe a star on the end of that or something like that. Yes, that's looking a bit better. Okay, great. So the first thing we're going to do in user is we're going to create just a div wrapper to put all our content in. And this is a really simple one because we've only got the name and the email. I'm going to pass my props in here as well. I typically like to do this when I'm declaring components. So if I decide to add more, I don't have to refactor the function prototype here to include all of those types in the arguments, because it gets really messy. So I'm pulling the prop, and it's kind of like what you'd expect when you look at a React component or something like that. So here we go. We're going to have a div, and we are going to give that, again, the fixed height that we had before. I think it was 14 and 96 width. And then we're going to give it the background, which was a bit lighter than the background that we already had. We're going to round the corners, and we are going to give it a bit of padding in different directions. How about that? Okay. And so this is our component. It's going to needs to have some contents here. Now, obviously, that makes no sense because I haven't put class in. Right. Let's put a heading here for our username. I'm going to add a little bit of styling to that. Maybe make the text extra large, say, font bold. Okay, and then here we're going to, we're going to have a mail to, exactly what we want. I'm going to make this blue instead. Blue, text, blue, let's say 800. Okay, so we should get a card with the person's name and an email that should launch a mail application, which is a very basic user card. Okay, so in here what we're going to do is we're going to we've now got a component, so we can map through our users, and each user, and let's make sure we've got the type here. That's not going to work because we need IDs in here for it to be happy. Okay, great. We're going to map through our users. It should know what the type is here, and then we're going to render out. Actually, probably don't even need those braces, but let's import the user component. We should probably call that something different to user. Let's call it user card. How about that? Now I'm going to import user card from components user card, and we can pass in the prop. We don't need the key. This is just GitHub Copilot helping me. Okay, there we go. Okay, so it's printing out the users. Great. Okay, next step. Let's get some actual data happening here. Let's use a database. So the database we're going to use is a SQLite database, and I'm going to quit this, and I'm going to add SQLite 3. There you go, it's installed, and I'm now in my database here file. I'm going to import I think it's verbose that you're meant to import, and then we need to create an instance of this, and then we're going to create an instance of the database by giving it a path to the file that's going to contain our database. So it doesn't exist right now, but it will create it once this is running. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to create a script to create some data for us. So, oh, there's there is Pilot helping us out. Let's create the table. Yeah, that all looks good. And we're going to insert into users values Alice Boot. Okay, yeah. I think, come on, Copilot, you can do it. No, it's getting upset with the formatting there. So we're going to have to finish it off ourselves. I'm going to add a few lines here, one for each of the guys that we were talking that we had before in our home. So we have Bob and Charlie. So Bob Boot and Charlie Boot. Okay, and so we should be able to run these two methods in serial on the database. So let's just run that, and then I'll basically comment this out because we only need to do it once. So bundev. Maybe we need to make sure we have imported this somewhere, and that will be in, well, it is imported there. So let's see if this works. Do we get a SQLite database being created? No, not yet. So Let's add a method, and we can create a method called get all users or something like that. Let's create a users file. And that will get the users from the database. So we want to import the database from the DB that we've just created. And the DB, that's great. What we probably want to do is wrap this in the promise. Oh, there we go. It's already doing it, isn't it? So new promise, don't need this. And then we need to, if there's an error, instead of throwing an error, we're going to reject with the error. And then when it's successful, we're going to resolve it with the rows. Okay, great. And then we need to close these brackets, and we are nearly, no, that's not right. There's a brace. That looks right. Okay, so get all users. So now what we're going to do is we're going to include that in our home component here in the post. Instead of our mock data, we are going to get the real data from the database. Let's comment this out. Okay, so one thing we're not doing here is we're not assigning the correct type to this, and I'm guessing that we need to force it to the correct type. So let's, as promise, user doesn't like that, because let's maybe assign it at this point, rows as user. Great. Okay, won't need that then. And so now back in here I've got maybe I do want that. Yes. Okay, we're in business. So hopefully now what's going to happen is, let's console that out to make sure we are getting the right thing. Oh, I need to start it, don't I? That'd help. Great. Okay, so it's started. It seems to have only added the first one, so I'm guessing I need to go back into my database here and maybe comment out. Maybe do these one at a time. I don't need to do that. Well, that's fine, because it's not going to run the second time, because it only creates it if it doesn't exist. So there we go, everything's been added. I'll get rid of this now. That's not how we would do it in the real world anyway. Great, so now we've got 3 people in our database. You can see the DB's SQLite database file is there on our desktop. It's loading it in here. We have a method to create the table. This would be like our schema setup for the database, and we would only do this once, so we probably don't want this in this file, but let's comment that out for now. We would do that a different way, but this was a nice and easy way for us to get our database up and running. We'll be adding methods to our users model here for adding users in a future video, and we can handle creating all that. So the next video I'll be showing you how to open up a modal to add the information for a user, and when you submit the modal, it'll create the new user. It'll asynchronously put them at the bottom of the, or the top of the list, depending on what we decide to do, and it will close that modal, and be saving it to the database at the same time. So we are well on our way to getting user management working using HTMX and Hono. I hope this has been useful for you, and I hope that you're seeing the power of HTMX and how simple it is. We haven't done an awful lot of HTMX today. It's mainly just been getting Hono working with the database, but you can see the power of that. Let's just to demonstrate how this is working, let's put a weight in here to so we can see. I like how GitHub Copilot remembers what I have been doing before, and I don't know why I put that one in. Oh, it's showing me the diffs. Okay, there you go. So they are the loaders. Let's make that last even longer, because for 2 seconds. These are the skeleton loaders, and then it shows the details. In fact, I'm going to get rid of one of these, because there you go. Great. Okay, so this is feeling a bit more like a web app now. I hope you've had fun watching this emerge, and hopefully we will get to see more HTMX patterns next time. See you soon.